Le cheval plaît beaucoup, hein. C'est un vecteur de communication extraordinaire.
Avant d'être un cavalier, c'était important d'être un horseman.
Always put the horse before the personal ambitions.
Vraiment un cheval incroyable.
Voilà quelqu'un qui est champion olympique et qui n'est pas ordinaire.
Sans remettre en question, il peut se servir des défaites pour être meilleur après.
Ce feeling, je l'ai eu directement avec Caleb.
On fait du haut niveau, il y a le côté financier, c'est comme ça.
Aller en compétition parce qu'il est bon, pas parce qu'il paye une table.
Moi, je veux pas courir mes chevaux pour l'argent.
If you can do it in a way that doesn't take too much out of your horses.
Quand on voit l'évolution en 10 ans de temps, qu'est-ce que ça va être dans 10 ans ?
Pouvoir motiver les jeunes à aller au bout de leurs rêves.
Forme de très très bons compétiteurs. Je ne vais pas dire que ça forme des hommes de chevaux.
Pour moi, les bons moments, ils sont à venir.
Aujourd'hui, réussir sa vie, c'est avoir la vie que l'on souhaite.
When we tried to contact Kent on WhatsApp and asked him to record an episode with him, his first reply was the following: "Can you tell me the name of your podcast so I can listen to one?" We further met him and got to understand that Kent Farrington is a true observer. He tries to understand, to gather pieces of knowledge and information from everywhere to make his own recipe of success. As I'm talking, Kent hasn't left the Longines top 12 since May 2012. 11 years being months after months on top of his sports, chasing titles, medals, victories, and representing his nation in the main championships. And yet, Kent Farrington wasn't born on a horse, not even close. The kid from downtown Chicago just grabbed with two hands every opportunity that was given to him to ride. And from there, hard work and dedication paid off. Welcome to I'm an Equestrian podcast. We truly hope that you will like this episode, and if you do, feel free to share your thoughts with us on social media, and please drop us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts to help us grow our media worldwide.
For the second time, we have the pleasure to be supported by CWD. CWD is a high-end saddle maker brand that aims to help riders perform while preserving the integrity of horses. Both the world's best riders and amateur riders are fond of their saddles. CWD owes this success to its policy of research and development, with a close focus into the locomotion system of horses and to its innovations aimed to provide precision and comfort. We asked Kent Farrington to tell us how important are CWD saddles in his performance, and here is what he said.
I've been with CWD for more than 10 years. They've been a fantastic company to work with, adapting equipment to my many different horses and always willing to adjust things and make changes for me throughout my career. They've been very loyal to me, and I'm super happy with the service. I think they're a great company, and I'm proud to be an ambassador.
Hello, Kent. Thanks a million for accepting this invitation. We are in Wellington at your barn, and we're going to record this episode with you. So I'm going to talk a little bit about your background, and then I will ask you to introduce yourself with your own words. You started as an 8-year-old with no family background in horses. You began with weekly lessons in downtown Chicago. You then turned professional when you were 19 and started to work and train with Tim Grubb, who was a 4-time British Olympian. Then you worked with Leslie Howard, an US show jumper. And you started your own business when you were 21, so quite early on, and became very fast one of the youngest riders to enter the club of earnings over $1 million in prize money. In 2016, you were at Rio, where you were 5 in individual and silver medal with Wire in the team. And both inside and outside the ring, you are recognized for being a true hard worker, I think, and also for your dedication to excellence. So what I'm going to ask you maybe is to introduce yourself, your background, and also your personality.
Okay. Okay. I don't really know how to get into my personality. That would be for somebody else to define. But, what am I supposed to say? My name and where I'm from or something?
Yeah, you're sort of like, how would you introduce yourself to someone who absolutely doesn't know you?
I would just say hello. I'm Kent Farrington. I'm from Florida. I'm originally from Chicago. I'm an equestrian, and I travel the world doing show jumping.
All right.
So, Kent, what was your early childhood like? What did the young Kent dream about when he was 10 or 15 years old?
When I was still that age, I would say I wasn't so dedicated to horse sport. I did a lot of different sports. I did some martial arts. I did basketball. Being from Chicago, Michael Jordan was in his era at that time. So every kid in Chicago watches the Chicago Bulls and Michael Jordan. That was a big influence from a sport background. I did skateboarding, gymnastics, a little bit of boxing, everything. So not so many team sports, especially in school and things. I was kind of split up between doing a bunch of different activities.
So what were your dreams? It was this life you are living now today?
When I was that young, no, I didn't. I didn't know I was trying to do anything. I wanted to be some kind of professional athlete, but I knew that I recognized very fast. It was pretty easy for me to see. I went to school. The other kids were much bigger than me, so I wasn't going to play football and I wasn't going to play basketball. So I didn't know exactly what I was going to do. And if I didn't make it in sport, then I'd have to go into the real world and find a real job.
Sports is not a real job.
No, I don't see it that way. That's the dream, right? You're getting paid to do something that you would do for free or you would even pay to do. So I think that's the best.
We often hear that to become a professional in the equine industry, we have to be born in an equestrian family to benefit from the best, education, relatives, background. And this is not your story. So today you are still very young and you have been very successful, but you were born very far from this world. So how did you do? What were the main steps that you managed to complete to reach the highest level now?
I would say through a lot of support through outside people, actually, industry professionals in America in particular helped me when I was very young. They saw that I really wanted to do it. They thought I was athletic and that I could ride. So they gave me a lot of opportunities to ride. So I think in that part, that was also a very unique situation. So I was willing to ride any type of horse. And I would spend all day as I got older trying to get better at riding, asking a lot of questions, trying to learn as much as I could. And a lot of pros kind of took me under their wing to give me an extra horse to ride, give me an extra horse to flat. Anything, little ponies, extra big horses, whatever, it didn't matter.
You had a true hunger to ride and to improve and everything.
Yeah, when you asked me earlier, when I was really young, I did all of those different sports, and then as I got older in my young teens, then I did a bunch of different things with horses, from low level eventing. I did some pony racing. I did these things, and then I really found that show jumping was what I wanted to do. And then as soon as I decided that's what I wanted to do, I went 100% at going for that.
I have read that you got very much inspired by your father, and especially by the following statement of his: learn from everyone, don't completely copy anyone, and be the best version of yourself. Could you comment this?
Yeah, he had a lot of funny quotes, the kind of philosophies on things. So he was very, very strong on his ideas, and he didn't know anything about show jumping, but he saw that I was always trying to do it, so he would give me more just general life advice, but I found that many of those things still stick with me and hold true today. So that's one of my favorites.
Can you tell us about your system today? Because you have been, so I checked, and it's been more than 10 years that you are months after months after months part of the top 10 in the Longines ranking list. The last time you were out of the top 12 was more than 10 years ago, and it was May 2012, actually. So what's the system around you that help you, that allow you to be always on top of the sport?
Horses. And I think that being able to adapt to different horses, it gives you more possibilities of horses that can do the sport. So the more you're able to adjust your riding or your system, gives you more opportunities to have a horse in the top sport. So the less limitations you have as a rider, I think then the more opportunities you have to have a horse that jumps 5-star classes. So I think that's probably the secret, is how do you get as many horses as possible to be able to make it at the higher level in the sport.
Do you buy your horses young? Do you own them? Like, is this how you work?
Yeah, that's sort of been an evolution in a process, or my career as it's evolved. Over time, in the beginning, I had groups of people that would come together, and we would buy young horses, or some people would even give me a young horse, maybe if it was a little difficult or something to ride. And then over time, I was able to buy more young horses myself. So it's kind of all of it.
Okay.
We are here in Wellington today recording this episode with you from your facilities. Everywhere you spend the season here in Florida before flying back to Europe. Can you tell us about such a balance in your program?
I think splitting the time gives you the best of both. You know, I'm still an American. I'm comfortable here. This is a great lifestyle for me because we get to show at a high level. So there's great competition with actually many Europeans that come over. So the overall quality of rider here is quite high. You can ride tiny classes with young horses, and I have a nice farm where I can produce young horses too, so I don't have to travel. So I can stay at home every night, go to the show each week, and ride young horses at home. So I'm kind of getting to do all of it at one time. And then I think the rest of the year is spent picking the competitions that are right for the horses you have at that time. Obviously some of the best ones being in Europe, so that's why I always enjoy going over there and seeing where I measure against the best guys in the sport, and trying to go to the best venues.
Do you think that that today, like, American riders could stay there, compete only on the American soil, and still be ranked in the good ones, you know, in the Longines, and still be selected and qualified for the championships? Or do you think it's like mandatory? It has become mandatory to come to Europe?
Of course, it's possible, but what I think it's a matter of being comfortable. And I think the way that you succeed in the sport is with confidence. So you get more confident the more you've been around the sport, and you're comfortable riding against all the riders that you're going to see at a championship, so that it feels more like a regular process. You don't feel totally out of your element. You know, the warm-up in Europe is a little bit different than it is in America. And if you're not used to this is very uncomfortable. So I think that by doing a bunch of those shows and seeing different course designers competing in places that are foreign to you, I think makes you stronger as a rider.
In April 2017, you took over as a world number one in the Longines ranking and held to the top position until March 2018. Becoming world number one, was it the one goal that has been driving your whole career? Is it the most important goal of any athletes like Peder Fredriksson tell us 1 year ago in Geneva?
I think it's a great achievement in any sport to say at one time you were number one in the world. I think once you've done it one time, whether it's for 1 year or for 1 month, then I think it's sort of, you know, moving past that and aiming to the next goals. But I think it's a great achievement for any athlete to be world number one, sure. But I don't like to think that was the goal. It was more the consequence of doing things the right way, having consistent results, and being one of the best in the sport.
Okay.
You also have clients here. Is this part of the way you work? Is this something you like training, or is this like an economical factor or whatever?
Is both.
Yeah.
I think in America, the whole system here is built around amateur competition, where Europe is built around horse industry. So there's many people in Europe producing horses, breeding horses, selling horses, all of this. And in the US, it's mainly amateur riding and going to competitions. And there's very few pros, where in Europe it would be majority pros at all different levels of the sport and of the industry, and very few amateurs. So it's just kind of the inverse system of what's there. So I think it's a reality of the circumstance. So I enjoy training. I think it's very rewarding to help people do the sport better and to be able to give them knowledge the way so many people gave me tips and helped me improve. That's really fulfilling as someone that's been doing the sport since I was a kid, and being able to pass on those lessons. And it's also part of the reality of surviving as a professional in America, is that you have to run a business.
Do you believe that it also makes you a better rider in the arena, or?
I don't know. I don't know if it makes you better or worse. I would say you can pull positives out of it. You know, it makes you more aware of habits and things that you're doing. That's the plus side. The negative side is that it's time consuming. So you have to be very conscious of your own time, that you're still dedicating enough time to your own riding and your own sport, and that it doesn't all get lost in the wash of trying to help too many people.
Yeah.
2 weeks ago, you trained the young USA jumping team, and we watched the content released by the USA Jumping on socials, in which you say that confidence is something fundamental to perform, that riders should ride into the arena with enough confidence to think that they are and will be doing good. Do you always have such a strong confidence, and is this something you had to train to create, or was it a natural state of mind for you?
I think confidence in any athlete is always something that grows over time. You know, you have success doing something, you gain more confidence. You've done it before, you know that you can do it again. So the hardest thing is always the climb up the hill the first time to find that confidence. And it's also a funny thing, you know, you can gain or lose confidence very, very quickly, just like a horse. With good riding and confident riding, the horse can believe that they can do anything. With a rider who's not very accurate and doesn't give the horse confidence, they can very quickly go down in the sport and believe that they are no longer capable of jumping a certain height of fence anymore. So I think that's why, particularly in this sport where you have a partner in an equine athlete, confidence is super important, because the horses feel confidence. You can't fake that, you know. That has to be a part of who you are. The horse has to believe that you know what you're doing, and that, you know, whatever task you guys are going out to do, you're doing it together as a team, and you know what you're doing.
When we met Eric Navet, the French rider, last year, actually here in Wellington, he told us that he would spend hours watching the warm-up arenas, trying to understand how such riders was handling this specific horse, to see what they were doing, etc., how they would train. And I could read something similar from you in an interview when you said that you are observing everything. Like, you're very focused, very careful. You said, I would know what equipment they were using, what bridles they had on, what kind of warm-up they were doing when you would observe warm-ups arenas when you were younger, what were their spurs and everything. Do you think that the capacity of observing others, of getting inspired, of learning from them is the key to your success today?
I mean, I think there's a lot of factors that lead to success, right? It becomes many layers of things adding up to success in the end, but for sure that's a big component that I call free lessons, right? So if you can watch people that are very good at what they do and you just observe what they're doing, it's like getting a lesson for free. So when I came to Wellington when I was young, anytime that I wasn't riding, I was watching, and if I couldn't take lessons with the best riders or trainers, of course, because that wasn't my situation. I could watch somebody else have a lesson with them, or I could watch them warm up their horse, and I could understand why are they riding that horse in a particular way, what was their strategy to go into the ring, what was their plan for the jump off, so you could learn and sort of practice all of these things without even having to ride, but it's free information if you want to pay attention and open your eyes.
Okay, so this would be one layer and to success.
Mm-hmm.
What would be the other key factors for you? Like if you had to make up your own recipe to
Mm-hmm.
explain your success, what would it be?
I would think that surround yourself with the best people, like have a team of people that are around you that help build your confidence and that are positive. You know, I think that's really, really important, because then in the horse sport, you lose a lot more than you win, even when you're number one in the world. If you actually look at percentage of classes that you're winning and classes that you're losing, you're going to lose probably 85 to 90% of the time. So that's a lot of losing. So I think you want to be around people that are inspiring you to be positive and have a positive outlook on, you know, how to be better. And I think that's probably the biggest component is having a great team of people around you.
Yeah.
Mm. You are one of the so far still few show jumpers who seem to adhere to a stricter regime and very healthy lifestyle. We can see you train and practice physical activities and socials. When and why did you decide that this will be a part of your journey to the top?
That was probably one thing that was always a part of my life, even from when I was young. As I said, I did a lot of sports, and going in school, you know, the other kids were bigger than me. So if I wanted to do sports or anything, I always wanted to be really strong. So I wouldn't be the biggest, but I would be very fast, or, you know, I would be very strong for my size. So they would be stronger than expected for my size. So when we would have the little fitness tests at school and things like this, I was always super trained. So I started there working out, I think, when I was probably 10 or 11. I would work out in the mornings before I went to school, and it just became a habit. So then as I got older, then I no longer worked out in the mornings. I worked out really late at night, but it was always just part of what I did. And then I thought going to the Olympics being a goal one day. When I went there, I always said when I arrived there, I'm going to look like an athlete. So I don't want to look like somebody's brother or somebody's dad who got lost at the venue, you know. I wanted to look like I belong. Maybe they don't know what sport I'm doing, but they think I'm doing some kind of sport.
I don't know if you know that, but after seeing you and practicing on Instagram, Harry Charles said that he was inspired to hit the gym and start training as well. Is this one of your purpose of that type of content, to inspire people to be fitter, to be more athletic, to be healthier?
I don't know that it's a conscious effort to inspire. I would say more that that's what I do. If somebody else finds inspiration, that's great. That's how I like to be. I think I would do that anyway, even if I wasn't doing a sport. That's just comfort for me. But I think it's great if somebody else finds inspiration in it. But it actually started because when COVID happened and everybody was at home, one of the guys that I work with said, you know, everybody's stuck here and it's very negative, and people are all, you know, down and not sure what's going to happen. And he said, I've seen you train all the time, and most people don't even know that you train. Why don't you just put out a few of your things, and it would be something uplifting for everybody that's sitting at home and doing so. That was how he did. That was how we started some videos for COVID.
And okay. It worked. It worked.
Okay, yeah.
You just said that he became a habit, you know, and we were with Lucie Delaurier right before, and she said that the year she was shortlisted for Tokyo, she had read Atomic Habits, the book, and she started to wake up very early, to have very, very strong habits, and that it helped her a lot in the way she performed and in being better, even like as a person, but also in the ring. Do you think that your habits are so important also for you in your daily life and your daily performance?
Yeah, I think that being great at anything or trying to achieve excellence is a consequence of what are your daily habits, whether that's training or riding or your diet or whatever it is. Motivation can come and go, right? Like some days you can be really motivated and some days I'm not so motivated or whatever, you're going to have some ups and downs and things, but if you can be disciplined, the discipline can hold even when you're not super motivated. I don't always feel like going to the gym, but I go anyway. And I think that when you can have enough discipline to have good habits, those help you get through down times or bad times, because that will hold you to a better standard.
Yeah.
We can follow on logically with another key of today's show jumping, mental preparation. Both physical and mental preparation have been historically left behind by riders. It is quite new that we can see riders talking about mental preparation and mental trainers. How do you train your mental? What is your routine or your resource? What role does mental prep plays in your success?
I think again that's just a habit, right? How do you deal with setbacks? How do you approach an event? And I think that everybody has their own way, and that's what I think is really unique, and even unique about riding in the sport, is that everybody can do it a little bit different. There's a lot of roads to Rome, and you can take people that are built very different. You can take different genders. You can have even different styles of horses, big horses, small horses, what would be called a fast horse or a slow horse, and they can all win. So I think the mental preparation is also the same. Everybody can have a totally different approach to how they do it, but I bet all of the people that are consistent at a high level have some kind of repeatable process.
Okay. Do you have process? Because when we talk with Peder, he showed us the little paper. Have you ever seen his papers?
Yeah, I've seen him walking around.
He writes everything down,
yeah.
like 1, 2 forward, 3, 2, I don't know what number of strides, and it's incredible, actually. Do you have something like that?
No, I don't. When I was coming up in the sport, one of the early coaches I had wouldn't allow me to walk the courses. They said that he said, like, you're going to have to learn how to ride and manage different horses. So we're going to learn what the course is, and you just go in and ride the course. So you learn to adapt. When you're young, the jumps aren't very big, so you learn just how to ride without a mechanical plan. And then as I got older, then you learn to do both. So then you learn to make a plan and have a certain number of strides that you try to execute very precise. But I think being able to do both is a powerful skill. And I think in terms of walking a course where someone might be very comfortable writing it down, I'm more comfortable not overanalyzing the course. So I walk the course pretty fast. I normally walk through maybe twice if it's a big Grand Prix, just to make sure I'm comfortable, and then I don't want to look at it anymore.
The story of your coach was very funny because it's the exact opposite of the way American riders learn riding with hunter equestrian, hunter equitation. They have to know the number of strides very early on. Even when flat riding, they have a very mechanical and technical way of learning the stuff. And you had the exact opposite. You were much more like a European rider.
Yeah, I don't know if it was European. We just called it like pony riding, but it was fun.
But not walking the course is different. Way different.
Yeah, that's way different. I mean, even now, sometimes I don't walk the course if it's not a really big class. I go there, I watch 1 or 2 horses go, and you go. And I think that one of the strengths of American riding is being able to have a system like that where they can accurately ride and execute a plan. I would say one thing that the younger riders in America have to learn how to do better is be able to adapt to a situation. Having a great plan is perfect, and then, the horse trips after number 1, and now your perfect 7 strides is no longer 7 strides. Maybe it's 8, maybe it's 12, but you have to adapt.
Then you have to open your eyes.
Yeah, exactly. then you start riding for real. So I think being able to do both is great, and both have their place.
We will talk about it for decades now. You've been a very talented and successful rider. And as we already stated it, you are riding with the American Vests. Has this always been something really important for you to be able to represent your country, to participate in the growth of show jumping in this nation?
I think it's an honor for anybody to be able to represent their country, especially when you talk about the Olympic Games or a major stage like that is a dream to go there, and it's bigger than your own sport, and it's bigger than yourself. So I think that's always great. I would say my focus there is on the biggest level of sport. So wherever that is, that's where my interest goes.
I can't remember seeing you riding in the Global Champions Tour or League. Is this a choice of yours? Is there any reason why you would not compete in this?
I've done many Global Champions Tour events. Last year I just did the 2 in America because those were convenient for me. But in years past I've done probably all of them at least once. I think more it's a matter of where I'm at with the horses I have and what fits into my schedule, because I'm not, European based. So a lot of those shows just aren't working with my calendar.
We were in Geneva last December. We assisted to the IGRC annual conference. I don't know if you were there. I don't think so. And Kevin Stout, as a president, as well as other riders from the board, expressed their fear about the future of the Nations Cup circuit. Kevin said that it was not sexy anymore, and that the global annual competitions calendar is too full. It's hard for Nations Cup to keep attractive. What do you think, and do you agree with the fact that Nations Cup have become less sexy?
I think that depends on particular shows. I think any sport over time has to keep evolving in order to stay current and stay interesting. So I think that if you take the Nations Cup at Aachen, I think that always looks very well attended. They have a huge crowd. That's one of the biggest draws of the show. So I think that somehow they're able to still make that a very exciting event for sport, just as an example. And I think that lots of times when they have so many shows, as Kevin said, that are stacked on top of each other, it becomes hard to recognize what's important. So I think probably they have to just understand what are the weak points and maybe make some adjustments into how to improve that so that it stays an important part of the sport.
How do you yourself build your calendar? Because it's hard to know what's important. So when you have one nice horse or when you have a string of horses, how do you build up the calendar?
And that's actually really easy because the horses decide. So I don't make the schedule. Of course I would love to go to Aachen, for example, but if I have a horse that's not ready or that doesn't go well on grass or that isn't going to be happy in that venue, no Aachen for me. And if I have a horse that's great on grass, then I'll build a calendar around trying to have a horse go to events where I think that they have the best advantage to succeed.
And in a more general way, we just met Gazelle before the interview. We were very happy. And it's been a while that she's performing with you. And I wondered, when you buy a young horse, because you said you would buy young horses now, what's the process in developing and producing the horses until they become a gazelle and they stay on top of their sport for years?
I think, again, treating every horse like an individual is probably the one thing I always keep in mind, because that's how you maximize the potential of every horse, just like a person. This one needs more confidence. This one needs more time at smaller jumps. This one doesn't. What suits each horse, I think. So starting off, in general, I pick very careful horses and horses that are maybe a little bit smaller, just because I'm not that big. But the other advantage that I have if they're smaller is that they don't suit a lot of other riders because they're too small. So then that's an easier way for me to pick them up, because it's a less competitive marketplace to buy those horses. So I think that's often how I start with that type, and then each horse coming up with what does that horse need in particular to help grow in the sport.
You talk about Haken and you talk about Gazelle. This morning, while scrolling on your Instagram, I have read something you posted the day following your victory in Haken 2019. You said, "If I was dreaming, then I wanted to stay in the dream as long as I could. Thank you to my ultimate teammate, Gazelle." Can you say that Gazelle is one of the horses that has marked your career the most?
For sure. She hit a lot of key victories that I think any rider would want to have on their resume. So for sure, that's been one of the most important horses in my career so far.
Can you tell us about her, because she is small? Like when we entered the barn, we were, oh, Gazelle, you're tiny.
Yeah.
But she has such a strong mental also. Was she always like that? Like always competitive, always the same?
She was always very careful. I would say the most important thing for her was, just like I talk about with a rider, was her confidence. So on a confident day, then you feel like you can jump anything. She also went through some rough patches in her career where she would get confused about a particular jump, or she didn't like something. She could get shy, or she could stop. So I think that was a difficult part, but that's also what made her great. The same horse that doesn't want to touch the fence also sometimes is a little unsure about that fence. So I think that's the balance of the great horse. Some difficulties are also going to be what are their strengths in the end.
Do you already have the next Gazelle in your barn, in your string of horses?
That's impossible to say, because I think you only know it's another Gazelle when their career is towards the end, and you can see a report card that shows similar results. So I could only hope for this, but I think I have some talented horses, and we're gonna have to see where they go.
To Paris?
Hopefully that's on the agenda, but we'll see.
I'd like to ask you what was the best success in your life and the greatest failure also. Can you tell us how each of them has defined your path? What were the main lessons you managed to learn out of them?
The best success?
Yeah.
And the best
failure.
I would say the best success is that I'm doing what I love to do. So I'm surrounded by my friends, and a lot of them work within my business. They become like an extension of my family, and I'm able to support myself, take care of the people that are close to me, doing what I love to do. And I think that's bigger than any individual victory. Failures, there's a lot of those. I don't know if one would stand out as a
life lesson, or
yeah, there's so many of those. I would say biggest failure or regret was more my father got sick when he wasn't very old, and you always regret that you didn't spend more time. So and those are things you can't take back. So I think the lesson there is always enjoying what you're doing along the way, and to recognize the people that are important to you and take care of those people and tell them that it counts, So I think that's probably the best lesson I could take away from that.
So it will be the last question. Where do you see yourself 10 years from now? Do you think that your boundaries or life expectations might have changed a little bit?
Yeah, I think that's again evolution as an athlete, as a person, as a trainer. I recognize that I won't be able to ride forever. So how much longer can I ride? If I look at my heroes in the sport, what do I have? Probably 15 years to go if I go really, really strong and stay fit, which I hope I do. But yeah, I don't know where that will evolve. It has to be fun. That's kind of my rule, or one of my key takeaways, is that it's not worth doing if you're not enjoying doing it. So as long as I'm having fun, I'll keep going. And where that takes me down the road, maybe it goes into more coaching as my career winds down. Probably always owning a bunch of horses because I love horses. That's my passion. And probably some combination of coaching and owning a bunch of young horses to see the future of the sport on both sides, in the riding and the horse side.
You just said the heroes I got inspired from. Who are they?
Oh, many. My list is long there too. But because I didn't have access to shows when I was young, I had videotapes. So this was, now I'm going to sound old because there was no YouTube or anything like that, but we would get the VHS cassettes of the Olympics and the World Cup, and I would put it in, and I would stand in front of the TV and I would pretend that I was Nick Skelton, Rodrigo, or the Whitakers, and so I would watch all of them, and then I would pick a couple of the riders and I would rewind the tape and just watch it over and over and over again and try to understand what they were doing through visual learning, and then go ride, and I would pretend in my mind that today I was gonna ride like Nick Skelton, Yeah, exactly. I would put on my leather gloves and hold my arms up, and
it worked.
Yeah, I don't think I ride like Nick Skelton, but there are probably some funny moments there of me riding around as a kid thinking that I was.
Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Thank
Kent.
you so much, Kent.
Sure, you're welcome.